Hi everyone, my name's Sophia.
My name is Hank.
And welcome to You Know Me So Well. Today's episode is personal success in a relationship. I think this is an interesting topic because I feel like when you get into a relationship, it heavily affects how you live your life and the things you do and the things you don't do. But at the same time, I like to maintain that independence is key in a relationship, and it is important that you remain an individual being who is doing their own thing and doing things based off of how they want to do it, or doing things they want to do and not doing things they don't want to do, etc., whatever that is. And this can be in any circumstance. This isn't just, in success in the way that we think of it. But anyways, I've thought a lot about this, so much so that before this podcast even ever got released, I created this whole note on the things I wanted to talk about. So I have it. So anyways, yeah, personal success in a relationship. The main takeaway of this episode is going to be a relationship shouldn't hold you back from succeeding in your personal life. Rather, it should enable you to do more than you thought you were capable of. So when we're single and when we're on our own, we are generally our biggest driving factors behind what we do and what we don't do. Of course, there's family and friends who may push you to do stuff and help you out and be there to cheer you on and all that. But I feel like many times their influence is okay. No, that's a lie. In certain circumstances, yes, family or friends' influence can play a huge role in what we do and the success we produce, etc. I experienced this in high school, for example. I was really trying to please my parents with my academic success, and I think they were a huge drive, even though they don't think it, they were a huge driving force in how I did and how well I did, I guess. So yeah, I'm not saying that in other relationships there's not this situation, but since we're in a relationship, we're talking about it specifically in a romantic relationship. But yeah, I think the whole point is if you're in a relationship and someone is holding you back and you can tell that you are a different person because of the relationship and the things you do are different from what you used to do, and in a more cautious, maybe held back way, that is when you need to start thinking about, how is this relationship affecting my personal life and the consequences that it may have on the success that you produce, or whether you are producing success or not. So of course I'm going to be using, I don't know about Hank, but I'm going to be using personal anecdotes from our relationship. So as you guys know, this is my first relationship, so everything was new, exciting, but also really nerve-wracking. And when I got into the relationship, I had such a mental block at the beginning about whether being in a relationship was distracting me from doing things I wanted to do or succeeding in certain areas of my life. So here's the thing. When I was in high school, actually before I started high school, I read this How to Get into Harvard essay or paper or whatever. It was an article. And it was a very in-depth article about how you need to do well in school and extracurriculars and all that. And for some reason, you would think my main takeaway was okay, well, obviously I knew I had to do well in school. I took that away. But for some reason, I had this additional takeaway that was never blatantly said that made me decide that I would not like a guy in the 4 years that I was in high school, because I deemed it as distracting. And I know people are probably what 13-year-old thinks that? My parents are scientists. Okay, give me a break. I grew up in this very academic household. So anyways, yeah, I thought if I were to have a crush, it would be this great distraction. It would distract me from my academics, and I could not allow that to happen. So I did indeed go 4 years without having a crush, without entertaining. I mean, I guess I entertained some men, but very, very, very minimal. And it was really only in my freshman and senior year. And senior year was after I'd applied to colleges. And yeah, so essentially I think I just like had this main takeaway that something like a relationship or like liking a guy or like really just being involved in a guy in general is distracting to my personal life. And if I want to indulge in that, I have to understand that I'm taking away from anything in my personal life. Now, obviously, like once I got into college, like it's not like I felt that as much anymore, but I think like deep down I still sort of had that mentality of, oh, like maybe being in a relationship is like distracting me from things that are important. And I would say like, yes, that can totally happen. And I'm not going to lie, like I'm sure that in some areas it has been like a distraction. I mean, I feel like I've done pretty well throughout our relationship, like academically, professionally, just in like my own personal like sense. But at the same time, like I'm sure it's distracted me from certain things at times, you know, like it's not like I'm completely like, it's not like I'm sitting here telling you guys like, yes, like being in a relationship has just like opened every horizon for me, and I've always like, it's never distracted me. Like okay, that's a lie, you know, like, so yeah, so obviously I was really concerned, and I was trying to evaluate whether it was like a good idea, whether I was in a relationship or not, and whether maybe I should like leave, you know, in order to actually do well in life. But then I started to realize that a lot of things I may have wanted to do that I wasn't doing most likely wouldn't have gotten done if I wasn't in a relationship. So here's the thing. I feel like we are our biggest doubters. We hold ourselves back the most. And I think that like it's just so easy to place blame on someone else for what we're not doing, because you never want to say, I'm messing my own life up. Like no one wants to know that they're actively like not trying hard enough, or they're not doing something, or they're like maybe messing their life up in some way. It's so much easier to blame an external source, because like why wouldn't you, you know? Like, so I definitely like started to like evaluate this whole situation. I was like, okay, like let's be honest. Was I going to do this if I was single? Like likely not. In fact, there's probably an even greater chance that I wouldn't have done it when I was single, because when I was single, I was just like boy crazy and like really frolicking around, like not caring about life. So like, yeah, you know, like probably not. I'm going to be honest. Like I've said this before, I feel like we have a pretty mature relationship. And in some areas, I feel like it maybe had me grow up a little bit, because it made me start thinking more about the future. Because obviously I was thinking about like the future of our relationship. And that came with sort of thinking about like the future of what our lives could look like, both together and individually. And so obviously I started envisioning like, what do I want to do post college? Like, what are some things I'd like to accomplish in life? Like, what are some things I like to do? What are some things I don't like to do? How would I like to further those things? You know, like what does my ideal life look like, including with this relationship, but also outside of the relationship? And then like start kind of painting a picture for myself. So yeah, I mean, it's really easy to place blame on a relationship, but it, like, you know, is this, you have to evaluate in that situation whether it's true that, you know, that person may actually be holding you back, or that relationship may actually be holding you back, or whether this is just like you know, it's kind of your problem and you're just like putting it on the other person because it's easy to do that. So yeah, I then started to realize that I actually was making major headway in important areas of my life once I got into the relationship. And I'm not going to say this is like directly related to the relationship, because I think some of it wasn't. But like in the first couple months that we were dating, I got 2 different internships. Both were paid. The last internship I'd had was many, many months prior. I had not even had like the opportunity to like interview for an internship in that time. But then once I got into the relationship, I mean, obviously like natural track, I would have definitely been applying to these like internships if I was, you know, not in a relationship as well. But yeah, like fun fact, Hank's bathroom in LA, in his LA apartment, was the place where I got those 2 internships, because Hank would sleep until like 12 o'clock and I would do these interviews at like, I don't know, 9, 10 a.m. And I would always, for some reason, be at Hank's apartment when this happened. So I would sit on the floor in the bathroom with my computer, interview, or sit on the phone, interview for these companies, and then accept my offer or receive my offer at least in this bathroom. And then Hank would wake up and I'd be like, fun fact, I have an internship now. I'm going to New York this summer. Yay. Like, yeah. And so I started to realize like, no, I don't think I'm being held back in any way. In fact, I'm making headway. And even if this is just me personally, like at least it lets me know that the relationship isn't holding me back, because if it were holding me back, then I wouldn't have had these opportunities. Like these opportunities weren't just handed to me. Like I had to work for them. So yeah, that was a big thing.
This is mainly Sophia led episode, but I've got a few things written down. So you talked a little bit about this already. The first thing I have written down is just to be able to maintain a healthy balance, and like have your own things away from your partner. Like as much as it's so exciting and so easy early on in a relationship to kind of get so caught up in your partner and kind of let some other things go for a little bit, it's very important for the long-term health of the relationship that you can stay focused on your personal goals and stay focused on your personal goals at the same time. Like what Sophia's saying, she also was able to do that because she still managed to stay, very dedicated to what she was doing at the start of the relationship as well. So it's a very important thing to kind of maintain that balance and have that healthy balance of doing your own thing and also, letting yourself kind of get that natural early in the relationship caught up in your partner type thing.
We've been together now for a year and like four months. Wow, it's been a while. Anyways, and obviously our lives have changed a ton in this year and 4 months. Sorry, I'm just going to say year because it's easier to say that. And they've changed really rapidly too. Like I feel like we've gone through so many different lives in this year plus. But the biggest thing about it is I've always had someone to support me through it or give me a little push in the right direction when I was doubting myself or wasn't sure whether I could handle doing such a thing. So the thing is, when I want to do something, this is sort of what I've come up with. When I want to do something, like recently I started getting very serious about YouTube and I'm posting like 2 times a week and all that. But for the longest time, this was something that was sort of just like at the back of my mind where it's like, oh, I wish I could like post on YouTube, but I feel like I'm not going to have any good content. Like no one's going to watch it and blah, blah. And obviously like if I were to bring this up to Hank would be like, no, like post, like don't even think about that. Like, it's going to work out, blah, blah, right? But also, when I felt like there was something I wanted to do, but I knew that maybe, like, I had the confidence about doing it at the beginning, but I knew that there was probably going to be a point where I'd start doubting myself, I would tell Hank, you have to hold me accountable for this. And this was in so many different things, including this podcast, actually. I was starting, like we came up with this podcast. I was super excited, blah, blah. We started working on it. And then I had this sort of like change of heart where I was like, is this kind of like, what's the point? Why are we doing this? And then obviously, Hank is my partner and like we're working on this together. And he was like, no, like we are doing it. And then, at the same time, like if Hank ever doubted it, I would be like, no, like we have great content. Like this is really great. We're having fun. Like we need to keep going. And so whenever one of us has our doubts about something, we have the other person to kind of help push us in the right direction again and give a little like confidence boost and like also remind the person of how far they've come from like their initial place and the journey that awaits for them. And yeah, I mean, I think it's just a great thing, and it's actually so helpful to have it. I mean, I would say it's one of the best things about a relationship. If you have a healthy relationship where the two of you are supporting each other and are excited about each other's progress and want to see each other just like grow and succeed, you can do so much. Like you can really be that like power couple, just powering through, working on your dreams and trying to make it a reality. And kind of just like taking life by its horns, or is that the terminology?
Taking life by its. You got the right idea.
Yeah, like taking life by its horns, like just like grabbing it head on and just going at it together.
All right. So another thing I'd written down was, you can't.
I love how we're like doing 2 different episodes. Hank has like a whole list. I have a whole story. I'm so sorry, guys. This is a little chaotic, but I hope the message is like getting across.
So another thing I have is that you can't be dependent on your partner, and your partner needs to be supportive, and they can't get upset with you when you do your own thing. That second thing I said is really just kind of goes back to, like I said, my first thing, maintaining a healthy balance. And, you know, just in a relationship, your partner can't get upset with you for, chasing your own goals, and you need to be able to stay dedicated to that as well. The first thing, you can't be dependent on your partner. I think that Sophia actually had a pretty good example of that. She was talking about how we started this podcast and everything, and every time she would doubt, I would kind of, like bring her back up and be like, no, it's all going to work out. But then there would also be times where I doubt it, and she would help me, and she would tell me it's all going to be okay and help me bring it back up. And I think that was important because, if I was the only one ever believing in it and ever supporting it, like the second I started to doubt it, it also just would have been over.
Yeah, like we would have gotten like 3 episodes in, and that would have been the end of it.
Right. And then, but the fact that, once I started to doubt it too, Sophia was able to step in and kind of, bring it back to me. She wasn't dependent on me to make it work. Even if she had her doubts sometimes, she believed in it overall as well. And whether this is something that you decided to go do with your partner together, or it's like you actually, or it's just your or your partner's own individual goals, they need to be supportive, but you can't necessarily rely on their support to get it done at all times.
You need to be the driving force behind your success and what keeps you going to accomplish things. But I think just like having that extra boost can be really great in times of need, because we all have our moments where we start to doubt whether the path that we're taking is right for us, or whether we're going to like make it to the end goal, or whatever. And I think the issue is when doubt comes into play, that's when people start to kind of mess up the whole thing and fall back or give up completely. And I don't know. I think that support from a partner can be really amazing. Okay, I'll continue on with my lovely story. This is like you guys should be listening to this like in bedtime story, everyone. Anyways, so obviously, like from everything I've said, I think relationships shouldn't hold you back from succeeding in your personal life. Rather, it should enable you to do more than you thought you were capable of. I think I just copied and pasted that from the beginning. Oopsies. Anyways, like that's the main takeaway. If you are in a relationship where you don't feel that is the case, then I think you need to reconsider, because you deserve to have a partner that is going to support you through everything you do, unless it's like, maybe like a bad idea, like a visibly bad idea that you're just like, you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this. And it's like, okay, let's think about the consequences, like what might happen if you actually do it, blah, blah. But any good idea that you have, you should have a partner that is going to support you and that is going to be there for you and is going to cheer you on and is going to help you out when things get rough. And like we said, like you can't depend on said person to like make this happen, because I think that's the other thing. I've had moments where I felt like, oh, like he should be able to like help me succeed, but it's my own personal venture. So why would that even happen? Like I have to be the driving force behind it. He can only sit on the sidelines and like, cheer me on, like do a little cheerleading stunt, blah, blah, right? Like you can't expect the most, but I think just support in general can be so impactful in times of need. And even when things are great and you're like going for it, it's just nice to know that someone has your back and that they want to see you succeed and they want to help you keep going in whichever way that is. Even if it's like they're not helping you directly with your venture, but they're helping you in other ways. Like we talked about it in the boyfriend boot camp, where Hank was saying like, if your partner has a lot going on, is like having a really stressful day, that they have like a big test tomorrow or big like presentation at work, whatever it is, like make them dinner or get them dinner, like clean up a little for them so that they don't have to worry about that, when they get home. They can just focus on what they actually have to focus on. And that's, same thing goes for this, just in sort of a different way.
My last thing, I actually feel like we've talked about this in a recent episode. I can't remember exactly which one. It might be one that's not out yet, but don't lose sight of your already established goals and don't be hesitant to try to find new ones. Like I said before, in the very first point was, it's natural to get so caught up in the beginning of your relationship and that person, everything's about them and all that, which is, I mean, that's like natural to an extent. Like, it's just part of that honeymoon phase at the beginning. But again, you need to make sure that you're staying committed to your goals and your, plans as well. You can't let it all get lost just because you're in this relationship with this new person. And again, I think it's impossible for us as people to be, quote unquote finished products at any time. People are
We're
just
always growing.
yeah, and like people are just naturally destined to want to grow and try to find new things as well. And I think it's easy in a relationship to get complacent in your life and not, it's easy to find comfort in that person no matter what, which you should, but you can't let that comfort and, drive you away from going to chase new ventures as well. You still need to stay committed to chasing new things, and it'll never ever be a bad thing to go out and try to find new hobbies or new interests or, maybe even depending what stage you're at, like new careers, like you need to stay committed and make sure you're still trying to find out what's best for you at the same time.
Yeah. Okay. So now I'm so sorry, but I'm going to get a little sentimental. But I wrote this like months ago, so I don't really know what I said here. Okay. I actually really appreciate having you because not only do you support me on all of my ventures and always show up in trying to help me succeed, but you also hold me accountable for the things that are harder for me to hold myself accountable for. Don't give me that face. Yeah, no. I mean, we talked about this, I think, in the relationship truths episode. Sorry, we've been it's all meshed together. But yeah, no, like I said there, Hank has been like an amazing support system. I think it's one of the things he's best at. And go find yourself a partner who's going to do the same because it's so worth it. And like I said, we've changed so much in the time that we've been together, but I think a lot of the change would not be made possible if we didn't have each other to at least just like cheer each other on. Sorry, this is getting a little repetitive. Anyways, the point is Hank has been an amazing supportive partner, and I feel like we've done a lot both individually and together in the time that we've been together, and it's always great to see us grow and change and try new things and succeed in those things. And the other thing is, actually, from the start, I always saw Hank as the initiative spirit I desperately needed in my life. So my whole thing is I've always been someone, I think, with great ideas. Like, I am probably like an entrepreneurship at heart or entrepreneur at heart. Oh my gosh. Okay. I just come up with ideas and I get really excited about these ideas and I'm like, this would be so cool. But then when I really start to think about it, I'm like, oh, well, like maybe one day I'll do it, like, okay, just like I'll push it to the side for now. And when Hank walked into my life, well, when we started dating, he walked into my life before that, but when we started dating, I started to realize that Hank had this like initiative spirit and that I could give him an idea and then he could propel us forward to doing it. So like, let's say we were planning, like, what are we going to do today? And I was like, oh, maybe it would be kind of fun to do this, but I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's actually that fun. Like, he would be like, no, let's go do it. Like, this sounds fun. And so, fun fact, actually, we actually started talking about having a podcast last March, so a little over a year ago. It was really random. I was home for spring break. Hank was in LA, and I don't know how it came up, but we just like randomly started talking about it, and it was like, oh, like, wouldn't it be fun if we had a podcast together, And I think we even sort of promised each other that we would do this, but it sort of like got pushed to the background. Like, we really didn't have a plan at the time. We had no idea what we were going to do. Like, we didn't think about it too seriously. And like, I think we actually talked about starting a podcast together last March. And at the time, I think I just had a lot of doubt about my ideas. And so I really didn't indulge in them. And so the beginning of creating a podcast would completely ride on Hank. So this was like at the time. And with time, I feel like I become more initiative. I think that I have a much easier time now propelling myself to do things without like someone else like pushing me to do it. But yeah, like I think part of the reason why that podcast never got started like a year ago is because, you know, it was like riding on one person. And I think that like in a way, seeing Hank's confidence with just like initiating things has helped me gain confidence in doing that. And it's also like seeing success be produced from my own success, not like from our relationship, has made me realize that if I put my mind to something and I kind of push through, like things will come out of it and it can be a really great experience. And so, yeah, we've now been together for a year and 4 months. And like I said, I think we've accomplished a lot. We've gone through many lives. And I think we're just like, we're sort of on this fast track of like continuing to change and succeed and grow, especially like now we're sort of anticipating this like future where there's a lot going on for us. And I don't know, I think it's been great like doing it with Hank. It's been great that we were able to do this podcast. Oh, that's the other thing I want to say. So the thing is, actually, fun fact, when I was 18 years old, I wanted to have my own podcast. I was like, oh, it would be so fun to do this one day. But I didn't think anything of it. I didn't even do any research on like how do you even start a podcast, right? Like it was sort of just like on the back of my mind. And fast forward now like 3 plus. Yeah, almost 3 years ago. Yeah, I might have actually been 17. Almost 3 years later, here we are sitting here recording this podcast. And I think that being able to do this together has sort of given me the confidence to do stuff alone. For example, I'm going to be starting my own podcast at some point. Stay tuned, guys. Like, get excited. It's happening. But like that would have never happened if this hadn't happened. And I think that like in certain circumstances, when you can do it with your partner, it's actually really great because you can get this kind of test run and feel for it. And you can fall back on each other when things get hard and then produce a success. And this is definitely like the way more comfortable way of doing it because obviously like in life, you're going to have to do things on your own. Your partner's not always going to be on the same track as you. Like you can't always like learn from lessons together. But I will say like, if you have the opportunity to do certain things together, it can be really great to help propel you forward. And fun fact. Like I said, both of my parents are scientists and they work at the same university and they don't work together. They have their own labs. They're individual professors. They're amazing. They're slaying, but their relationship is kind of built on like helping each other succeed. They spend so much time sitting there talking about science, reviewing each other's papers and grants, giving critiques. My mom, I don't know if I should be saying this, but my mom is sick right now and is out of work, but obviously she still has a lab to run. And my dad has actually been helping her run her lab. He talks to her people, he meets with them, you know, he's doing all the like behind the scenes of like making sure the lab is running, making sure the people are doing what they need to do, making sure that like things keep running as they were, as if my mom was there. And it's like, you know, I don't think that wouldn't have been possible if they didn't have that kind of relationship that's built on helping each other succeed. And obviously they've accomplished a lot in the time that they've been together. And yeah, so if you don't believe our story or you're like, you guys are too young, take it from my parents who have been married for 21 years and are PhD professors at a well-known research institute.
Sophia's very supportive of me too.
Thanks. He's just doing that because I said
I'm not just doing it. It's true. You're very supportive of me.
We said this I think in another episode, but Hank is going to become a DJ. I'm calling it.
I'd love to. DJ Henny.
Yeah, the other day we were actually driving in the hospital.
Yeah, we were. I think we were in the hospital.
No. We were driving to the hospital. Yeah, because we were like playing music and we were like having the time of our lives driving to the hospital. And I was like, Hank, wait a minute. Like, you know, because Hank has this like audio engineering degree. Like he has a full on associate's degree in audio engineering. You know how much he can do with that? Like you don't really think about it, but there's so many different things. And I was like, wait, Hank, you could totally become a DJ. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, Hank, you need to become a DJ. Like, you have to become a DJ. I want to be a DJ girlfriend. I want to stand behind the booth and like bop and like throw money at people or whatever DJs do. Like, you have to make this happen for the both of us. This is my dream, not yours, but you're going to make it happen for us. That's the other thing. The fun thing about having a partner who like does different things and has different dreams and goals and aspirations and also like different talents is that they like, if they have like cool talents, like they can produce success that you can live vicariously through that you would probably never be able to live through otherwise. Like, for example, this podcast, you know, like Hank runs most of it. He does the audio engineering. He sets up everything. Well, he's taught me how to like set up the mic and all that and record it, but he does all the editing. That's why like our episodes don't sound horrible, because if you were to really listen to the original episode, it would be a lot of like, wait a minute, what was I talking about? Or like, this sounds really bad, you know? Sorry, I'm like ranting now, but the point is like I get to live vicariously through him in that aspect, and it's cool, you know?
Well, so it's like we're a team, you know?
Yeah, we are a team. You know, like Hank hates to show me the music that he's produced, but like one time he played some music, and I was like, wait, this is actually really good. I was not expecting this whatsoever. Like, I could totally see this being like a hit. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways, okay. I hope you guys enjoyed our very long, blabbery episode. Actually, guys, let us know what kind of episodes you want to hear from us. We've been trying to figure out like what is desired from our audience, because obviously like we like to do episodes, but we want to know what you want to hear so we can like curate the stuff to the people who are listening.
Yeah.
So maybe like send us an email or like DM us on Instagram or whatever, like find us somehow and maybe like tell us your top 3 favorite episodes that we've done, or give us like some recommendations as to like what episodes we should do in the future. We'll definitely take it, because I think it would be really fun to, you know, get an idea as to what people like to listen to. So anyways, thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
Oh, go check out our YouTube channel.
Oh yeah.
You Know Me So Well podcast on YouTube. I feel like you should be. I don't know if it'll come up, but I feel like it should. I don't know. Okay. Anyways. Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
Bye.